Welcome back to My Dad's a Lawyer, podcast about life, law, and other stuff. I'm Noah Mittman, son and a lawyer.
And I'm Brian Mittman, dad and a lawyer as well. And happy June, Noah. We're recording this on Sunday, June 1st, which I can't believe.
I know, this year's gone by quick. And, you know, it's not officially summer yet, right?
No,
It's
I
still
think
spring
June
technically.
20th is the summer solstice.
Okay, but once Memorial Day weekend comes around, it's pretty much summertime. So,
yes, other than the weather today.
Yes, other than the weather today, but it's summertime. It's going to get into the 80s later this week, and it's barbecue season.
It is barbecue season. In fact, I have decided I am going to break out the green egg once again and work on some smoking of meats. So
Yes, you should. You haven't used that in a little while. We got you that for Father's Day 3 or 4 years ago, maybe, or was it during COVID we got it for you?
I think it was during COVID. So, but I'm definitely going to get back into that now that you're moving around the corner from me. You'll have some protein from Dad.
Yes, definitely. Now that brings me to this article that I found about barbecue incidents that happen, and I'm sure people hear stories about this, but this individual had a barbecue incident and ended up causing 3 homes to burn down. So you gotta be careful with your barbecues.
Yeah, I remember many years ago. So your Papa Paulie had a barbecue hooked up to they had gas that came into the house, so it was hooked up to the gas line, not a separate propane tank. And we barbecue, and we're sitting inside, and this is at their old place, and all of a sudden, and he likes to leave the barbecue on a little bit to kind of burn off the residue and stuff.
Okay.
All of a sudden, it's engulfed in flames.
I knew you'd have a good barbecue story.
And there's just no way to put it out. So they call the fire department, and your mom I forget where she was. She was coming from somewhere, I think with your grandmother, but when they showed up, all the firefighters are in the house, and they had doused out the fire. It was hysterical. I was like, oh yeah, but great. It's scary because it can quickly. I mean, I think in that article, it just quickly spreads. You can't believe how fast. So
yeah, and is there a legal aspect to that too? If you burn down your neighbor's house because you were misusing the barbecue or because the propane tank exploded?
Well, you best have some insurance, and then it all depends. I mean, if a propane tank explodes and it was because it was faulty, it's not the homeowner's fault. It could be the propane company, but
right.
There could be other things too. It's if you crank up the barbecue and you walk away from it, and you're talking to your neighbor for an hour, and then all of a sudden, your homes are burning down, you'd be like, well, you didn't monitor your barbecue yet.
Yeah. So everyone be safe barbecuing this summer.
Yes, please. And send us your great recipes.
Yes.
All right, so here we go. We got a question for the old guy.
Yes, the old guy question. Now, I wonder, I guess I did fly before 9/11, but I want to know what it's like flying before all the security measures were implemented at airports.
Okay, so this is kind of the general knowledge of growing up and things that I knew. So back in the late 60s and early 70s, hijacking of planes was actually very common. And most hijackings were to try to extort stuff or whatever. And they started putting in some security measures. But I remember growing up as a kid, not only do you go to the airport to meet somebody, you could walk up and wait at the gate for somebody to come off the plane.
Yeah, you can't do that anymore.
And then early security measures, just kind of like metal detectors. That was the big thing. But I'll tell you, up until 9/11, it was just, depending on the airport, you could just roll in, probably metal detector, maybe not. It was kind of like a no holds, bar, the whole TSA thing and checking IDs. Think about it. That's an added layer of security of the federal government in between, checking on things. So, Yeah, that was that baggage rules. Oh my God, you always got bags. I mean, you didn't pay for your bags.
I know. Even I remember that early, like in the early 2000s, even,
Yeah,
you weren't really paying for bags. Every ticket came with a bag, a check
yeah.
bag.
The airlines have basically figured out how to nickel and dime you for everything. Oh, do you want a seat? Do you want a cushion on your seat? Do you want to? Yeah,
Yeah, now when you go in to select your seat, sometimes depending on the level of ticket you get, like if you get the basic ticket, you also have to pay for your seat too, your seat
yeah.
selection.
And they show that they make so much money off of things like the baggage fees. And in fact, who was it? Oh, Southwest Airlines recently changed, right? It used to be you would kind of board by groups, but you weren't assigned to a group. It's just like what line you got in.
Right.
Now they've changed it to kind of what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
So who
Yeah.
knows?
All right. I
But
wonder
yes,
what.
you could walk up to the gate and wait for somebody. It was a
Yeah.
different world.
Yeah, I wonder what security advances are going to be like in the future at airports. I know, now with all the facial recognition and everything, they could find you in an airport instantly if they needed to.
I think, to be honest with you, I think that a lot of it's just going to be people. I mean, part of it's for show to make people feel good. I think it's going to get so good that you're literally going to just kind of walk in and you'll have to show you
ID.
know, you might not even have to show your boarding pass because again, between the facial recognition and all that. So
Yeah.
who knows? Anywho, so yeah, that's air travel these
Yeah.
days,
Very
which
different.
is
All right.
which isn't very much fun. Very busy, but not very much fun.
Yes. Yes. Now we have our main topic of the day, ethics in politics in the world. You want to jump into
So
this?
yeah, so I have put this in because when I watch the news and I listen to things and everyone says, "Oh, things have changed," things really have. Again, uh, on the political side, the current administration and everything that they seem to be doing, it seems like norms on ethics have like gone out the window. But it really got me thinking, even in more general terms. So, as lawyers, we are required to be ethical, right? Our clients
Right.
are expecting us to act in a certain way. And I remember a teacher always telling me that if the thing you're going to do has the appearance of impropriety, if
Then it
it
probably
looks like
does.
it might not be nice or ethical, then no. Or if you're going to do it, then you have to ask some questions and make sure
Right.
that you cover your bases.
Right.
Now, I mean, forget about appearing unethical. Hell, you can do things, unethically and say, well, no, it's kind of okay. And
Yeah.
people are buying
It
that
has
shit. I mean,
changed.
I don't care who you are. You have a terrorist funding foreign government giving the US a $500 million
I,
plane
I knew that was coming up on this
as a
topic.
gift. Bullshit.
Right.
I
Like
on so many
what
levels.
makes you, yeah, because now, what if that government or person turns around and says, "Well, I did this for you, now I need a favor back," type of thing. And
But
that's,
that's the appearance of the
right.
impropriety. Even if they say, "Oh, no, 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 no," you know that if you have to make a decision between them and somebody else on a topic in the future, your human nature is going to incline you towards the person who gave you a really nice gift.
Yeah.
The reason they have these rules out there for judges and politicians and everything that they can't and civil service that they can't accept gifts more than a certain amount of money is because of that very nature.
Yeah, and it's interesting with the judges too, because all these judges have these fundraisers and they get very close with the attorneys. Even some judges that I know, they know the firm personally, they know my, bosses personally, they know me personally. Do you think, they're not supposed to, but sometimes they'll give you the benefit of the doubt when they may not really be supposed to give you, the extra 2 weeks you might need or 3 weeks or something like that. And I think that it does, cause people to have some influence. Like, oh, this person donates to my campaign. I'll give them another 2 weeks to submit this. It's not that big
And
of a deal.
and it goes to like, how do you legislate that, right? Because it is a legal system wrapped around human nature. We're
Right.
human beings. Relationships are everything. And we're not asking for special favor, but at the same time, it's that slippery slope of, if the judge says, look, 2 weeks is 2 weeks, and that's what I'm standing by. Yet we know that things happen. So okay, I'll
Right.
give you a little bit extra time, and then like, wait a second, your son, who's an attorney, donated to your campaign, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's
It's in
tough, but
all
that's
it's
why
in
you have
all
to take it.
aspects.
Yeah, in everything.
Yeah.
There's some of the interesting ethical issues that are popping up these days as well, or things like uh, ethics around artificial intelligence and
Yep.
automation,
I know we
right?
talk about that a lot.
Yeah. How do you balance innovation with responsibility when artificial intelligence and automation can replace certain jobs and certain things and manipulate information?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're using artificial intelligence well and it's a tool, then I think you can balance it pretty well.
Right.
Um, because you know what? People make mistakes too. People do kind of the wrong things too. It's just another, it's kind of another tool that can assist you and help you. But, when it's helping you make decisions, then it's like, wait a second. What was this model trained on? They're talking about how a lot of the models have like bias built into it.
Yes. Like the algorithms.
Right. So like, they're talking about all these great advances in medicine, which I think easily in your lifetime and in my lifetime, I think, they're going to find cures for a gazillion things. It's
Right.
just coming. You can't not. So a lot of the bioethicists have talked about always having a human in there. So you have a doctor. So like the artificial intelligence can help make a diagnosis, but then the human has to review it, right, and
Right.
use their judgment and things like
Right.
that. And the interesting part though is like if all of the studies and all the evidence that the AI is learning from were one specific sector of society, will that make better decisions just for that sector, or will it help other sectors? So if it's
Right.
all, white males in the study, right? It excludes females, it excludes people of color, things like that. What are the ethics around it? What's the bias built in there? And does the bias matter or not in certain circumstances?
Right. And you see this with algorithms on social media, algorithms and, even on Google. I mean, Google has their own algorithm and now they have the AI integrated searches. So now the first thing that comes up when you search something on Google is an AI response.
Right.
How is that AI trained? What sources is it pulling from? That's why when I use all this AI technology these days, I like to have it cite to the sources so then I can go in myself and look at the articles it referenced or the information that it's using.
Yeah, and in the legal world it's perfectly fine for the AI to help you with your brief or whatever, but as an attorney, you best be looking at each of those cases to make sure that they're actual real cases.
Right. Right. And ChatGPT does that sometimes where you'll ask it to look up a topic and it'll give you cases that don't come up when
Don't
you look in
exist.
Westlaw.
Yeah.
And we actually are getting our new Westlaw package starting today, actually, June 1st. And we got the AI precision research guide. And basically what it does is we've spoken about this here. It's like a closed AI system that only draws its cases and information from the cases in the database. So you could go in and you could pick the specific court you want, like New York, Second Department Appellate Division, and it will draw, you can ask it questions and it will take those, it will answer from the, New York Second
And
Department
for the
Appellate Division.
non-attorneys listening, imagine a gigantic legal library with thousands of books in it. And what happens is
Right.
you do this research and it just sends you to a book, and then you got to pull it up and you got to see if there's been changes to that case, if it's been overturned.
Right.
And they now have this online, and these are the official decisions of the court.
Yep.
And in the past, people started using AI, and generative AI is creative, so it picks up cases.
Yeah. And it might be from a different state or made up completely.
Yeah. So really,
But I'm
and
excited to use it.
yeah, no, but there's so much positive,
Yeah.
and as well. Let's see. Let's see one of these other questions or one of these other topics on the ethics. So, another thing that's near and dear to me is really how does this impact workers? And it does change the nature of work and possibly workers' rights. So, just the gig economy where everyone's using apps to, be a Uber delivery
Yeah.
driver or a DoorDash person or whatever.
That's the new thing.
how should you treat those workers? Because people are working 20, 30, 60 hours a week, making nice money.
Yeah.
Yet if they have an accident, depending on 98% of the places, you're not covered by workers' compensation.
I know you're considered independent contractors for a lot of these
The
delivery
government,
systems.
the company has no obligation to pay you anything. Whereas if you were working for me delivering food or for my company, you'd be covered under workers' compensation.
I know
So
these are huge
there are
corporations
ethics
like
around
Uber
that.
that makes millions and millions and millions of dollars a year, so, should there be some sort of insurance that the government makes, Uber, DoorDash, Grubhub pay for that would cover the workers? I know some of these companies have, like for the Uber drivers, if you're in New York City, they have certain insurance coverage, and the benefit of certain insurance coverages, required by
Yeah,
the
that
city.
was a big fight over the years to get the Black Car Fund involved.
Yeah.
Um, but very interestingly, like that ethical issue around this type of stuff is also, it's not just quote unquote ethics. It's also what's the right thing to do. So New York City, and I think there's 9 different cities around the country that require Uber and Lyft to provide wheelchair accessible rides for people using their app.
Right.
And they have to make it available. They have to make it clear on the app and stuff like that. So there was recently a lawsuit that unfortunately got thrown out after 7 years up here in Westchester. But basically, an individual in a wheelchair took an Uber from New York City up to Westchester. But Westchester's outside the New York City law, and Uber's not required to have wheelchair accessible rides. He could not
Oh,
get a
wow.
ride back, ended up having to call an ambulance. It was crazy stuff, right?
Huh.
Out in the snow, and they sued saying, look, this is the right thing, and the ethical thing to do is they should be required.
Right. It's required in New
And
York City.
right, it got thrown out because those were the deals that were made in those jurisdictions. And you
I
sit
know.
there and you look,
Even
go,
though it's like a
okay,
county over.
and you're not talking about, some county in upstate New York that, has 25,000 people living in it, right? You're talking about a county just north of the city that has hundreds of thousands of people in it. Like you would think just from doing the right thing and trying to figure it out that Uber and Lyft would say, hey, we're going to provide
Right. And
this.
it's
Or, hey,
it's a huge population.
they sued Lyft. I mean, if I were Uber, I'd turn around and say, hey, how can we get this implemented and we can screw Lyft? you
Right.
know,
Right. Right.
um,
And they'd have the advantage of catering to those customers.
and doing the right thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's so hard to watch the news these days because it's like every time I turn around, somebody else is doing something stupid, and I'm like,
I know.
really?
Yeah.
I mean,
These days
really?
you could get away with a lot these days. It's scary.
Man,
And a lot of
totally nuts.
fake news stories come up a lot, like people generating their own news stories, posting it, and it could be completely untrue and not even relevant, but they just want to get clicks and clicks and clicks, and eventually people will believe it. And if you get enough people to click on it, then it becomes real news, even though
Right.
it was a made up ChatGPT AI article that you made up.
Yeah,
So
it's wild times.
yes, indeed,
Wild,
indeed,
wild,
and
wild times.
it
And speaking of,
also. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say because speaking of wild times, I know we have a weird stuff in the news that kind of,
Oh, yes.
yeah, goes towards kind of the craziness in
Ethics.
the world.
Great. We had a great outline. We both contributed to the outline today and ended up being the same topic. So we have an article here in the news today about someone working for the California train company embezzling funds to build an apartment in a train station. So let me pull this article up. But basically, what happened is, he kept all of the bills under $3,000, so he didn't have to get approval. And basically, he renovated his office and included running water, plumbing, and electricity so he could live there as an apartment, rent free.
And and the funny part is that he wasn't the first person to do something like this.
No, they said that this has happened before.
So speaking about ethics, right? Embezzling money and oh well, it's under a certain amount, so it's not a big deal. Well, it is a big deal. You're stealing,
It adds up.
you know.
Let's see if they have the numbers
And
in here.
think about all the time and effort that went into this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of money, about $50,000 to $100,000.
Right. And now he's
Could face
definitely
could face up to
now
4
he's
years in
definitely
prison as
out of
well.
a yeah, and well, he'll have a roof over his head at least.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, you know, it's just, I mean, people think they can get away with anything.
I know. And from the opposite point of view, I think sometimes it's also harder these days to get away with stuff like that because everything's reported in the news. Everyone has their cell phones to snap a picture or a video. So at the same time where people are, trying to get away with this stuff, people also are more inclined to get caught in these schemes and fraud because of all the new technology and availability.
Yet human nature is, oh, I'm not going to get caught, or the other guy's doing it. It's okay if I do it, or
Right.
whatever it might be, or it's not me, it's them. You
Yeah.
know, it's some wild times.
Yes, indeed. But
Yeah.
all right. Thank you all for joining us today. This has been a great
Yeah.
chat about some ethical issues, not just in the legal field, but in general in life, as we, tend to talk about life, law, and other stuff on this podcast. So thanks for joining us. I'm Noah, son and a lawyer, and you can catch me at You Know a Lawyer.
And I'm Brian, dad and a lawyer. You can catch me at The Disability Guys on all your favorite social media. All right. Have a good one, everybody.
Have a good one.
Talk to you later, Noah. Love you.
Bye.